And welcome to Night Shift as UCF knocks off Memphis 24-7. I'm Eric Lopez. Bryson Turner is with me. But more importantly, look who's joining us. Fitting on a night where UCF defense dominates, turns Memphis over, an interception after interception, the most significant interception in UCF football history, at least one of the more memorable ones, took place against Memphis. And he's joining us now. Tre Neal, of course, part of UCF, of course, 2017 national championship, had the great interception against Memphis in 2017 to win it. And Tre, I guess tonight UCF's defense decided to honor you by turning Memphis over. Your thoughts on what we just saw?
Oh, they played. I think they played pretty well. Slow early. Trying to kind of, they had a new quarterback all of a sudden because the starter wasn't playing, so had to make some adjustments, and they definitely did in the second half. You could see he was scrambling a little bit the first half, and that second half, they controlled him a lot, kept him in the pocket, and then when he did scramble, they were swarming the ball. So I think that's all you can ask for them in that sense. Just playing fast, and of course getting turnovers. You always win when you get that turnover differential. Most of the time, you're going to win the game. So they played solid. I think that definitely seeing improvement from now compared to earlier in the year.
What did you see schematically from UCF? There, obviously, Memphis, the big story was their starting quarterback was out with an injury, so they had to bring in their backup Parrish, who started the game, was more of a mobile quarterback. Had some success early running the ball. I know you and I were talking during the game, but UCF kind of shut him down. What did you see from the defense as they adapted to the mobile quarterback in Parrish?
So really kind of getting into it. Early on, they were they were just sending normal pass rushes, 4 guys, and trying to keep integrity. But he's an athlete, so since he's a newer starter, it was kind of just first read, and then if he didn't have that first read, he was just going to run and then be an athlete, make a play. I think I told you at halftime, I'm like, they're probably going to come at halftime. I thought they would probably send a spy. They didn't, but in effect, they just kind of did stunts and stuff. So the D linemen, they were twisting. If you started inside, you twist, go out. So by the time that first read is gone and he tries to scramble, a D lineman's coming in his face. So I thought it was smart, just to keep him in the pocket, make him kind of go through progressions, which obviously he wasn't the best at, which kind of led to those 3 interceptions. He was just throwing them up. But yeah, the D line, they controlled him in the second half and kept him in the pocket and made him a pocket quarterback. And that's not what he's best at right now. So I think it was great second half adjustment.
Yeah, UCF held Memphis to 292 total yards, 77 on the ground. And that was tremendous, Tre. Memphis, since you played them, they've always been known for their running game. They've had great running backs. They had a good running game, no different this year, but they kind of shut down the Tigers' running game, 77 yards on 31 carries. What did you see there from that standpoint, stopping the run? And I guess they just kind of decided to line up and put all the pressure on Parrish, who threw the ball 48 times.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, a lot of those yards, I think they came from when he was scrambling early. So I think, they kind of neutralized the run game. I think Memphis just kind of got out of it and we're just like, we're going to drop back and make him throw a lot, which I was surprised being that this was his first start. He's not really much of a thrower type. So I'm surprised he threw so much. But, when you're knocking the run game out like that, you don't really have a choice. And they didn't get the ball to Austin a lot, which was surprising to me until late. I think he had like three touches going into the fourth. That's for how good of a player that he is. I was surprised that they weren't just kind of similar to how Keith was just getting, manufacturing plays for him. I was surprised that Memphis did not do that for Austin. So, again, that, easier for our defense. If they're gonna take one of their best players out like that, make it easier.
Well, and clearly the losing their starting quarterback hurt them in that. You're right. And UCF did a great job focusing there. On the other side of the ball for UCF, I know it wasn't the most artistic offensive performance. The one thing that stood out to me, though, Tre, I think Gus Malzahn, this is a team that's been injured. They're obviously Dylan Gabriel out for the year. They have a true freshman at quarterback. And I think the offensive game plan was, let's make sure our 2 guys that are healthy, that are best offensive playmakers, and Isaiah Bowser, the running back, and Ryan O'Keefe, get as many touches. And they did that, and that was enough. What did you see from the offense?
Yep. Yeah, that was perfect, especially, going in and you're finding out you're about to go against, their backup. That unless he was practicing all week, the backup, the game plan is going to be essentially cut in half or watered down for, a first-year starter. It's going to be kind of a basic. So you just don't want to turn the ball over on offense. You just kind of want to, feed your beast. I mean, Bowser, when healthy, you've seen what he can make plays, and he's gonna wear down the defense. He's a bigger back. So, and I know Malzahn, he likes that. So just to wear down the defense, and he wore him down pretty early, just taking those hits, and then that kind of freed up O'Keefe, use his speed on those jet sweeps and this kind of misdirection. If you're getting beat up like that, and then you have that speed coming, I think it was the perfect game plan. I don't think you can, ask too much. They had the perfect, mixing up Bowser, mixing in Johnny Richardson, and then sprinkling in O'Keefe, and then, Brennan Johnson making plays on the outside. I think it was a perfect game plan, especially with, a first-year guy, at the quarterback, just limit his abilities to make mistakes and just let, turn on that O-line and let them carry you.
Bryson, what do you got questions for Tre there? What was your thoughts as you watched the game?
Well, I definitely agreed. This was the defense's time to shine. I think one thing that people cannot overlook is the stops that they made in the red zone. Memphis went to the red zone 3 times, went 1 for 3. If those 2 scores go through, we would be looking at a much closer ball game than we saw. So the UCF defense, by no other way, like, they've won that game, no question about it. The big thing, though, is that the UCF secondary has allowed a lot of receiving yards over the past few games. It's only been really in this game and maybe the last game that this secondary has really seen.
Well, and East Carolina played well too. They played well in the East Carolina game.
Oh, yes, for sure. And that's what I'm saying. Like, in the last few games, they've really gotten a grip on that. So, Tre, if you I believe you've been watching this season, what's the difference between the secondary that you saw at the beginning of the season against Boise State and Louisville and the secondary we're seeing now?
I think it's just, getting a feel and starting to understand the defense. I think, time heals, all wounds. I think, it's one of those things that go that, early in the season, it's a new system, new scheme. And everything it's a perfect defense when you're in spring camp. It's a perfect defense in fall camp. But once you start going against, real teams who are game planning this defense, you're going to have some issues. We had issues all the time. But, I just think being comfortable with the scheme, they weren't going to be as comfortable early on in the season. And then you're playing a Boise State, you're playing Cincinnati, you're playing a Louisville at Louisville. That kind of understanding of the scheme, it matters at the end, in close games. So I think, now they're starting, it's week 6, getting deep into the season, they're just starting to build that continuity with each other. They're getting the guys that, that are fitting what they want to do. So I think, I think you've seen it the past 2 weeks, just, they're playing great and they're playing sound on defense. I was talking to some other guys earlier. It didn't look like they were just playing technically sound earlier. And these past few games, they've been playing really sound, from tackling to coverage to everything, communication, and I think, you do those things right, you'll get those turnovers just like you saw today.
Well, and I think let's discuss this. People forget it was a coaching change. The players are playing for a new staff. It takes a while to get used to their the new coaching staff system. You went through this, obviously, when the O'Leary regime left and Scott Frost and his staff came, and it takes a while. Tell us about the process, because I don't know if fans understand that. On the process, you got a new staff that didn't recruit you and probably have a different style of a system, either defensively or offensively, because I think it applies to both. And there's an adjustment period that you can't just master in practice, right? You have to, unfortunately, in live game actions, there's a transition period that goes there, doesn't it?
Yep, absolutely. It's one of those things where, so for example, we went from Coach O'Leary to Coach Frost. We were a big 4-3 team, and then you go to a 3-4 team. Realistically, it's not really a difference, but body type wise, it's a big difference. A lot of those guys are playing different kind of techniques, especially up front, and then in the back end, it's not so much we're playing different coverages. It's just the terminology is different. The where the weaknesses of the defense are different, and I think those kind of things. Once you understand that, that's when you start playing really sound. In the secondary perspective. Up front, I think you're mastering different techniques because it's a different style of play. And same thing with the linebackers. But in the back end, I don't think I fully understand.
think we might be running into some technical issues here. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, we were pretty good our first year in the secondary, but we still had a lot of bust. We were just, I mean, there were so many guys that were just talented back there. But, I mean, we had so many busts, and I don't think it was till our second year that we started, fully understanding the defense, fully understanding why we're checking to this. And I think, it's still gonna take time, but they're on the right track now. I just think, of course, coming from going from Frost to Heupel, we were still an undefeated team. People kind of expected that just with every coaching change, which it's just not realistic. It's hard to go undefeated as that by itself. So just to, do that with a coaching change, I mean, that stuff is just rare. So I think just, it's going to take time just to learn that kind of stuff and getting a full understanding. I think by the end of this year and going into next year, they should have a full understanding. I think that's plenty of time.
Well, that's a great point. It took a year, and you guys didn't have the injuries that this roster has had this year with this staff. I mean, they've lost a ton of guys on both sides of the ball, especially up front on the defense. Kalia Davis out for the year. That doesn't help the process because it forces you to play younger guys that maybe aren't ready there. Like Mikey King wasn't supposed to be starting this year. This was still a Gabriel's team. And now you're asking a freshman to learn a completely different system. I mean, Gus's system is completely different than Josh Heupel's system. So I think we're seeing the growing pains as a result, aren't we?
Yep, exactly. I think, just that comes with it. I think there were going to be growing pains. I mean, I think we saw growing pains even with everybody healthy. It's just, it's people don't understand just how difficult it is to go for new terminology. And because you run a lot of the same plays, but instinctually, you're going to call what, Gabriel's going to call what he's been calling in the past 2 years, but it might be different terminology in Coach Malzahn's system. So it's just one of those things where you just got to, it takes time to you're reteaching yourself something. So, it's easier to teach, I think it's easier to teach a freshman coming in that just has never been exposed to anything. They'll make mistakes just because they're freshmen, but I think it's harder just to learn another, scheme, another thing, another verbiage for the same thing. And I think that's just the hurdles that you worked. And once you do, I think, you'll go back to seeing the offense clicking on all cylinders again. Defense as well.
Who has impressed you, seeing you on the field, especially, this secondary has been tough. It's young. They lost Richie Grant, was a Jim Thorpe finalist.
Yeah.
You don't just lose guys like that. Tay Gowan, who didn't even play last year, obviously opted out because of COVID. He's in the NFL, is now with Philadelphia. I mean, there was a talented secondary guys. You were quite familiar with some of them because you played with some of them there. I mean, what have you seen there from the defensive side? Who's impressed you? Because there's a lot of young guys that have had their number called.
Yeah, I mean, I played as a freshman, so I don't really, judge them too harshly because I know how difficult it is playing as a, 18, 19-year-old against 22, 23-year-old men. So, but a lot of guys that have impressed me, number 15 and Baptiste and 15 and 11. They're linebackers. They're studs.
15 is Tatum Bethune.
Bethune, yeah.
And then number 11 is Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste.
Yeah, those two guys are studs. I mean, they're all over the place. And you can tell by the way, their defense, they're asking them to do a lot because they know that they're really good players. Those two guys they catch my eye almost every single game. They catch my eye doing something up. Today, though, specifically, 12, Justin Hodges. Yeah, he had a lot of plays. I mean, and he could have had two. I think he had an interception today. He could have had probably 2 or 3 interceptions today. I think he's mistiming his jumping, which it's one of those things where in the moment it feels great, but then you're like, oh my gosh, I jumped too early. But if he timed his jumps, he has 3 interceptions today. He played really well. Brandon Adams played really well. I think the corners played really well. 14. Thornton, and then 7 Brown. Brown had an interception. They played well. I think the safeties played well too. They were struggling a little bit early in the year, but I think again they've gotten technically sound and just the fundamentals. Tackling, backpedaling, making the right breaks, keeping your eyes in the right spots. I think once you do that, you're always going to find the ball. So I think that's why you're starting to see guys get their hands on balls. If they're not interceptions, they're getting pass breakups. Which as long as the other guy's not catching the ball, you can never, I'll never complain about that. So I think, just seeing those guys and up front, I mean, I try to watch a little bit. I don't fully understand what they're really doing because I'm not really a D-line guy. But
Big Cat was big tonight, though. Big Cat was a big difference maker tonight,
he played really well. He played really well. I know that. And
he's
then
got
some
me a
of the
little. He reminds
inside
me a
guys.
little bit. He reminds me of like Jamarius Pittman when like he's explosive there and just is tough to when he's on his game.
He reminds me of some what's his name? Titus Davis. That's the first person that comes to my mind when I watch him. But yeah, I mean, 15 and 11 stand out. I mean, they've stood out to me. It seems like every game. And then KD, before he got hurt, he was a monster on the field. But it sucks that he got hurt. But yeah, 15 and 11, they catch my eye a lot. And then some of those guys I named in the secondary, you could tell that mostly because I played secondary. They've cleaned up their technique though. I mean, it's night and day from the first game of the season to now. So I think that's all you can ask for those guys, and especially how young they are. I mean, you got Adams is a true freshman. I think Hodges is a sophomore.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those guys are playing. They're growing up, that's all you can ask for them to do. They're growing up. They're taking their coaching, obviously, and they're playing the techniques. And I think that's all you can really ask for them to do. And 37, he's playing really well too early. He's gotten beat a couple of times, but that's a part of it. That's going to happen. Everybody's going to get beat.
37 is sophomore Quadric Bullard.
Yeah, he's playing really well. I mean, if people expect DBs not to get beat, they have a false understanding of the position. Mike Hughes was the first round pick, and he got beat. It comes with the territory.
I agree. And what I like about Bullard, and Bryson has brought this up in previous episodes, he's always around the ball. He's like been the leading tackler, right, Bryson? It seems like every game he's up there in tackles because he's around the ball, and that's what you want from a secondary.
This is actually the first game in a while where Bullard is nowhere near the top of the tackles list. So
which is a good thing because that means the defensive front and linebackers did their job. But
exactly.
But he's been around the play. He's been making plays.
Yeah, I think for the longest, I was always if your DBs are making a lot of tackles, that means your front's doing something wrong. But sometimes a lot of the time they scheme their best players to get around the ball. So I mean, I think a couple of years ago Richie led the team in tackles. He had like 100 and something tackles. So I mean, and again, he was one of the best players on the defense. But I think some of it could be scheme, but just the fact that he's around the ball, I always say that's a good thing because eventually those balls are going to squirt out. Those balls are going to be tips, and he's going to be able to make game-changing plays just because he's always around the ball. You can't really teach that. So I think that's always a good thing to be around the football.
You mentioned that when the DBs get a lot of tackles, that it usually means that something's going wrong, and our resident Banneret representative at the game, Andrew Glukov, would agree with you with that. Mm-hmm. But I will say, looking at the stats, I think there's a really big reason why that was the case in this game and why it was actually a good thing. So Memphis had 31 rushing attempts and 48 passing attempts. Now, of those 31 rushing attempts, 22 of them were from Parrish, the quarterback.
Exactly.
So they were going, even if they were running the ball, it was normally going in areas where DBs were going to be.
Yep, exactly. So, exactly. It's one of those things where, I mean, you throw 50 passes, I think he completed, 30-something of those passes?
Yeah.
So, you're talking, that's 30 tackles most likely a DB is going to be making, and there's only 4 or 5 of them. So, you're going to get tackles just from that. Then you have the quarterback running. I mean, if he's running past the D-line, most of the time the linebackers might not be able to see him. And this is an athletic quarterback. This isn't he's not a slouch athlete. He was athletic. So a lot of those plays he's going to be made, you're talking 22 carries and then 30 completions. The DBs are going to have an active day. It's going to be one of those days where they're going to make a lot of plays. So, I think, again, I used to be one of those people that, if your DBs are making a lot of the tackles, that's not good. But, schematically, sometimes that's what you want, especially in a situation like this. You don't want, a team just running the ball down your throat. You don't want a team just, throwing all over the place and there's nobody making tackles because they're scoring touchdowns, So I think, you have to be able to, take it and understand. I think that's where, just watching and kind of understanding what they want to get done, it kind of helps you process what's really going on.
Well, and I'll tell you this. I mean, you talked about the process there and making plays. I thought they were very impressive, flying all over the field. And I wanted to ask you about the scheme. You mentioned the scheme. This is obviously Travis Williams' first year. What have you seen from a schematically? The changes, the differences you've seen. Obviously, I don't know if you've been following ESPN Plus's Our Time docuseries. very big personality on the defensive coaching staff there. What has stood out to you from the coaching side on the defensive side and the scheme?
Oh, I mean, just even looking at the docuseries and stuff, I mean, it looks energetic. I think that's all you can ask for from a defensive coordinator, because playing defense is the hardest thing you can do in football, because everything you're doing is reactive. You're reacting to offensive linemen, you're reacting to running backs, you're reacting to receivers, so it's nothing. We're always reacting to what the offense knows what they're going to do. We don't know what they're going to do. So I think that's the hardest thing. So I think having that positive energy all the time, I think having that kind of burst of energy, that's always a plus. Schematically, I think he wants to be a multiple guy. He wants to show 3-down looks. He wants to show 4-down looks. I think, I just think right now with what he wants to do, because I noticed he plays a lot of off coverage. So with that, you're kind of relying on your D-line to get pressure. And early on, we weren't getting a lot of pressure. Even quarterback hurries, I think people underestimate that. They only really look at sack. But I think if you can get in the quarterback's face and just alter the throw, make them uncomfortable, I think that plays a part. So I think earlier they weren't really doing that. And now they are. I mean, they have Morris Bash getting after the quarterback. Big Cat was getting after the quarterback. And even just batting the ball down messes up the quarterback, it messes with their head. So I think, if you can do that, then I think the defense will be played really well. I think that's just from my perspective. If they can get pressure, they'll be a really good defense. If not, then you're going to have to manufacture pressure, which, that means you're going to be blitzing 5-6 guys, but that means you're going to be having your young, freshman and sophomore DBs in man coverage, which they could be good at, but you don't want them doing that the whole game just because they're young. They're going to make mistakes. That's just how it is. So I think right now, when you have a younger secondary, you want to get, pressure so you can kind of take the pressure off of those guys.
Jessica Sheldon has chimed in. Love how our defense played tonight, only allowing 7 points. Wow, plus 6 sacks.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of tonight. This is the best. Fans are really excited what they saw from their defense here. And, I thought, you mentioned, manufacturing pressure. I thought with the lead, they kind of put the pressure on Parrish. I think they almost figured, let's go after this kid there. Did you sense that?
Yeah.
And I felt like it seemed like once a player made a play that it just fed off everybody. Everybody was flying on the ball, that energy. I think that had to bring back some memories when you guys were on top of your game and were forcing turnovers. And I remember the I think it was the Tulane game where you were like returned defensive touchdown after defensive touchdown back in 16 when Griffin did it, among others.
Yeah, and Drico.
Yeah. And then you had a lot of pick sixes too in your career. So talk about that, where that it just to feed off the defense once they could kind of sense that. It almost like they sensed the blood and they just were just having fun out there.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think when we were playing, we were so confident in our offense being able to score that we were like, if we get beat, McKenzie's going to drive down the field and score, Traquan, AK. We were just so confident in our offense, it gave us confidence on defense. Like, if we get beat, who cares? We're going to go back out there. Our offense is going to score, and we're going to get right back on defense. Like, let's go make a play. So I think, again, that just not being scared to get beat helped us play so much better because we all get beat. Everybody's going to get beat anyway. Nobody's perfect. So, I think just being able to play like that. And so we used to always be like, Coach Chin would be like, you guys want to play safe or do you want to blitz? We're like, smoke them, Coach. Like, go smoke them, get after the quarterback. We got Shaquem Griffin out there. He's running a 4-3. Like, let's go get the guy. And I think, I think that helps everybody. I think that's what they were doing tonight. I think early on they tried to, confuse him with coverage. But, again, if he didn't see his first read, he would just run the ball. And I think he had like a super long 3rd and 17 or something. But, again, he's an athlete. So I think early they were just like, this is his first start. He's never really played, having to make plays thinking and up, making plays with his brain where he has to make the right read. So they were just like, let's just smoke him, guys. You got to hold up in the back end. We're going to smoke him. And I think that's the best thing you can do. I'm always a big, be the aggressor type of guy, even if it gets you beat. But I'd rather get beat being too aggressive than get beat playing too passive. So,
Yeah, I agree. Mike Dottie agrees. He says the exotic blitzes from the secondary really messed up Memphis's blocking scheme and offensive timing. And that's the other thing, right? If you're aggressive, bringing those schemes, different looks there, it could throw off Memphis, especially Memphis's blocking scheme, which you have so much history with. When they are clicking in a rhythm from a blocking scheme, that's how their running backs are super talented. just blow past you. I mean, Darrell Henderson's and the Tony Pollards, and they've had Kenneth Gainwell. I mean, they're all in the NFL.
Antonio Gibson,
Antonio Gibson's a great one, right? But they couldn't have. They didn't have any of that really tonight. UCF shut them down completely.
Yeah, exactly. And that's great game planning. And I really think it was in that second half where it kind of, they made adjustments. I could see it. And I talked to you. I was like, they're gonna have to do something. It's too close right now. They came out a little flat. It looked like, they hadn't maybe game planned for playing against this kind of quarterback, but, they made those adjustments quick, which that's all you can ask for. Go in, talk about it, make those adjustments, and boom. Because, Memphis is churning out NFL guys. And so you have to mess up their blocking scheme because it's pretty much they're running the same stuff that they've ran for the past 4 or 5 years. So I know if you can, if you mess up again, you blitzing from the secondary, the O-line doesn't account for that. And I think on one of those fourth downs that they converted when I think Baptiste, they ran a split zone read. He blitzed up the A-gap. He knocked the split zone tight end. He bumped into him. He tried to tackle the running back and almost tackled the quarterback, Even though they got a fourth down, that's what you want because he came free up through the middle of the A-gap. That should never happen ever in any protection. So I think just, that's having that confusion was – I knew that they were going to be successful because they were playing aggressive instead of trying to react to an athletic quarterback.
One thing we also don't want to overlook is how the Memphis really managed to shut down Calvin Austin because Calvin Austin has been a receiving threat. I mean, he torched the UCF secondary last year for 151 for 150.
He's like going to be he's the next Anthony Miller, isn't he? There, Trey. You faced Anthony Miller. I mean, they're very similar.
To me, he's like an Anthony Miller and Tony Pollard kind of mix. Like he can. That's why I was so surprised he wasn't taking any jet sweeps. Like just get him the ball some way. Let him make a play. I was shocked that he was not taking jet sweeps, especially with a younger quarterback. You might not want him, running routes deeper down the field. So I was surprised they did not have any of that. I think that played in the UCF's hand. If you're just going to have them run routes, go ahead. You have a young quarterback who's not used to doing it. We're just going to, we'll take them out the game that way. So, that was a big part of them being able to stop, you shut down Calvin Austin. That's amazing, because he's a great player.
Well, you showed him, contained him. And by the way, UCF held, according to Mike Dottie, 2.5 yards of carry. Held him to 2.5. Unbelievable.
Yeah. You do that, you're going to win a lot of football games. You do that. And that's against anybody.
Also, I do want to point out something because I took a look at the defensive stats from previous games, and it really kind of puts into perspective how good this game is from a defensive perspective. So, the team had 10 tackles for losses today. Over the past three games, they've had 11. They haven't had any tackle for losses since the Boise game, the first game of the season. They've had in this game 6 sacks. They have had 7 sacks the entire season before this. And then interceptions, they had 3 interceptions over the entire season before this, only 4. That is just from all sides, just simply a dominating performance from today.
Yeah, you're getting tackled for losses. That means they're playing behind the sticks for the rest of the downs. I mean, you're talking about offensively, you want to be 2nd and 6, 2nd and 5, ideally. And you're talking about 2nd and 12, 2nd and 13. That changes. I mean, half your plays are going to go out. So I think when you're doing that and then you're getting sacked, you're obviously coming off the field, and then turnover. That's all you can ask for. That's the perfect summation of it. But again, it comes with being aggressive. I think being an aggressive, you might get beat, but that's okay. But you're going to make a lot of plays, and I think this game is the game is offensive dominated now, so you have to make plays on defense. You can't just be a bend and don't break all the time. Of course, sometimes you want to be bend and don't break, but most of the times, you want to go get the quarterback, go make them make plays, show them that you can make a play. I think that's what they did tonight. I think you can't ask for anything else.
Couple last things, and we'll let you go because I know you got some plans with the better half. So I want to stay in good graces with her. But Give me your overall thoughts here of this team now. This is a big win. I circled this game with all the injuries. I said, people are focused on Cincinnati. I said, this Memphis game is a big game because this is the second half of the year. Even Gus has said, this is the second season. Mm-hmm. I think this is a positive here. At Temple, you host Tulane. There's winnable games here. It's a young roster to get a win, feel good about each other. I think this team, if they get out here to win some ball games and feel good about themselves and throughout this adversity. What's your thoughts on this team here moving the second half? We're going to try to bring you back for future post games, but just kind of your thoughts as you kind of see this team.
Again, I think this team, I've told people, this team reminds me so much of that first year of Frost, and that they've played a lot better than what the record shows. You look at the game versus Louisville, they should have won the game. You look at the game versus Navy, they should have won that game. So you're talking about we have 3 losses. The only real loss that we have was to Cincy, who they're a great team now. Cincy, they got NFL players all over the place. They have a great quarterback, and they have a great coach. So that's really the only game that they were the better team on the field. Other than that, those 2 games, we had them beat. And then, I just think those little mistakes that we make, that's what happens. But again, it's in the past. So now, moving forward, we get this win. We just got to keep building on it. I didn't see any time where we beat ourselves. Maybe the clock management before half with the
I'm glad you brought that up. Brought that up because a lot of people were confused by that.
Yeah.
They did explain it on telecast. Just explain to the audience about their substitution because UCF substituted and Memphis substituted, but it turns out Memphis kind of took their time, if you will, and that UCF didn't reckon, got to delay a game. Just describe what happened there.
Yeah, which to me that's how you combat tempo. If they want to substitute, and honestly, there was nothing wrong with the substitution. It was just Gus. He kind of waited, like the clock. I think it resets at 35 or 40. He tried to wait till probably 15 seconds to call in a play, and then he sent a guy in. So by that time, the refs are just doing their job. They're like, you made a sub. They have a chance to sub. So Memphis, it looked like they game planned it because the dude, he trotted super duper slow, and they can't rush him off the field either. So it was smart, but again, if you're on offense and you make a substitution, the defense is allowed to make a substitution. So that means they're able to run somebody on the field, and that means somebody has to run off. There's no rush. The ref will wait until it's 11 on 11, and then he'll clear from in front of the center or from behind the center. And that's what he did. So I think, just Gus had the right idea. He just waited a little too long in the play clock to try to substitute. He should have just stayed with the personnel on the field and then called the play in. But, yeah, I was confused at first. I'm like, why aren't they snapping the ball? But then I saw up top he just started the D lineman was trotting real slow, which is smart. It's a smart little play on the tempo.
Yeah, there's some gamesmanship that goes on.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's be real,
Exactly.
You mentioned Gus. What's been your thoughts on Gus, seeing him from afar, taking over the program? I've been so impressed with him. Obviously, the docuseries has showcased him and how he talks to the players in the locker room. And as somebody who's been there in the locker room, what's your thoughts on Gus and what you've seen from him so far?
Oh, I like what I've seen. I think being a head coach, there's a lot of you have to have those personal relationships with your players that they believe in you and want to play for you. And I think you see that. And you see it each week. I think that's just – it's hard to get that. I think a lot of people kind of take that for granted. I don't because I've seen both sides of it. But I think, just having a coach that cares about you and shows that he cares about you, I think that's always the most important thing to a program's success. I know people say, like, for example, Nick Saban is like, he's such a hard coach. I'm like, but he cares about his players, which is why they play so hard for him. And a lot of those guys are like that. But I think, just seeing that with Gus is that's the best thing you can ask for is just a coach who cares about his players. And I read was it the AD? He said something that was like a letter he got from a fan
Terry Mahadri,
at the Navy game. Yeah, from the Navy game. And he was just saying, like, how well-mannered they were and how, the way they acted, that's always a reflection of the coach. And I think, if they're acting like that, that means, they have respect for the coach Malzahn. They wouldn't disrespect them by doing anything crazy. So I think, he got the program in the right direction. There's going to be bumps in the road. It's year one. I think we've had so much success in the past. We just expect to, dominate and beat everybody, but that's just not how college football works. I think, especially with how much we change coaches, in the past, it's hard. I think we got a little spoiled with, Mackenzie Milton and then coming back the next year, winning again. So I think, we're in the right direction. I hope that, that this season doesn't end how Coach Frost's first year did, where we lost so many games we should have won, but we weren't disciplined. I think, hopefully those guys can clean up those discipline things and finish strong and carry it into the next year. So I think it's a process, it's a journey. But yeah, this team is only game I've seen that they were outmatched was the Cincinnati game. But you're talking about they should be 5-1, 6-1 right now.
Yeah,
I mean, which would be they'd be a top 25 team in the country right now. So, and I think people will be talking about them differently. But injuries, that's a part of the game. But again, that's just I think that's something that we should be able to take and be happy about is, a couple of plays here or there. This is a whole different kind of season we're looking at. But right now, these guys just gotta keep it moving and build on what they have tonight.
Our time also has taken a good amount of time, I've noticed, to showcase Travis Williams as well. I've seen, I think a couple of the episodes really took a lot of time to show what Travis Williams was doing, working on the defense. Malzahn even said in his press conference via our representative at the game, Andrew Glukov, Malzahn said that the work that T. Will has been putting in with the team is really paying dividends right now. Can you just talk about kind of the same thing you talked about with Malzahn and how Travis Williams has been, working with this defense and what you've seen with?
Yeah, I mean, you can tell he's putting in the work. I mean, again, just like I said about Gus, having a coach that you can respect and you want to play hard for, that does, I mean, it goes so far. People just don't understand, being able to play for a coach that you respect, to play for a coach that truly loves you and truly cares for, you doing your best. I think that goes so much further than, having a great defensive mind or anything. But he also is a great defensive coach. I've heard really good things about him from, players on the team and, some guys that he's coached and played with. So it's always going to be harder just to get the defense up the speed with what you want, just because it's harder to install it and kind of get the scheme. But I think, he's trending in the right direction. I know he's a really good coach. I know he gets plenty of energy and he, that energy rubs off on the guys. And I think that's all you can ask for. Everything else will, the mistakes will be made and it'll get cleaned up. But, just having somebody you can play for, I think that's a priceless kind of thing in a coach.
Well, Trey, you've dropped the knowledge on us here tonight. I mean, every time I think of the Memphis game, I think of you and I think of that play. I'll never forget in the press box, watching down the field. I'm thinking, is this game ever going to end? Is anybody going to make a play?
Yeah. Who are you telling?
and you made the play near the goal line, and that place just went berserk in one of the most iconic moments in the history of the program to win the conference championship, 62-55 over Memphis. A game will always be remembered, and that's a defining moment as a night. You make great plays, but that's a moment that people will remember forever.
Yeah, all because my guys up front, man. Never forget about those guys up front doing the
putting that pressure up front, right?
Yep,
rushing the throw.
Hey, I'm telling you, that play we were just like smoke the quarterback. That's all we can do right now. He's getting too confident. Just smoke him, make him uncomfortable, and that's what Shaquem, Pitt, and Tony, and all those guys did. So, they did all the dirty work. I get all the glory, but love those guys still. But that's just how it is. So,
how often you think of that play? How many times do people bring up that play to you?
I mean, I don't. Now that it's been that's like 4 or 5. That's almost 4
years?
Or 5 years. Yeah, 4 years ago. So I mean, I kind of I'm kind of done with that football playing phase of my life. So I don't really think about it too much, except like a game like this where I'm watching us play that team again. But if people ask, I'll talk about it, and then but for the most part, I just try to enjoy these guys. It's their time. I had my time. It was amazing time. Played for. I consider we were the best UCF team, but I'm not going to start that debate. But I had my time, and now it's time for these guys to make their name. They're fully capable of making the plays that everybody made, that Shaquem made, that Shaquille made, that Drico, that me, that Mike Hughes, that Tony Garr, that Pitt, everybody, Richie, Kyle, all these plays that we made that are so iconic. They're just as capable of making them as we were. So, they just got to believe in it, and, they just got to trust their coaches, which they're on the right track.
No doubt, but you still got to catch that ball. You made the play. A lot of defensive backs drop that ball.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
You're
That's
selling yourself short.
I've prided myself on catching picks forever. You can tell people I refuse to drop interceptions in practice and all that. So
that's right. You still got the ball, right?
Oh yeah.
I remember that. I remember you seeing. I was with Brandon Helwig, like you're a good friend, and we're in the locker room, and like you were hanging onto that ball.
Oh yeah, I didn't let go of that ball till I was in my car, door locked, and almost home. But I mean, I've thought about sending it back because I mean, again, I've not moved on, but it's bigger than me. I think that would mean more to the program just having it than it just in here collecting dust. I mean, it's cool to look at, but I have the memories. I played with those guys. I have the locker room memories that we shared. Those are better than any play I've ever made. Just having the guys and learning those guys. So I've thought about sending it back to UCF and just saying, here you go, do whatever you want with it, keep it, sell it, whatever.
That's right. It's well, you earned it. Thank you for taking the time. We're going to try to see if we can bring you back for another post-game edition because people like you. I've gotten good comments. So
let me know.
You've already. Well,
yeah.
Like Bryson's so happy. I told Bryson you were coming on. He was like, his eyes opened up. He was excited. He was really looking forward to it.
Oh,
like, I remember I was there. I remember that play.
Jessica Sheldon commenting 2017 was the best Knight team ever. I'm telling you what, me and Eric have had this discussion before, and 2017 is for sure up there. That is for sure.
Oh yeah, that team.
This is
Come
all we tell
you all are
people
going to get inducted into the UCF Athletics Hall of Fame. We said that in our Hall of Fame night shift. But if the whole national championship cheerleading team got inducted several years back, then the 2017 national championship get inducted
everybody should.
every 2 years.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I tell people, if you don't have an undefeated record, then don't even come to me. That's just my argument off the beginning.
Very good, man. All right, we'll let you roll there. Send my best to your better half there.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much for doing this, man. This was a blast. I think a lot of people learned a lot, and I think it's cool to have some perspective as somebody who's been there to kind of learn the X's and O's and what's going on there. We're going to definitely get you. You're definitely invited. We're going to bring you on again. We'll work around your schedule, and thanks for doing this.
No problem. Anytime, anytime. Let me know. I love talking ball about any ball. So just
I love
let
it.
me know.
All right, buddy. Take it
See
easy, bud.
See you later.
Tre Neal joining us here on Night Shift Live. How about that, Bryce? Look at that face of yours. I've never seen you with a biggest smile like there, huh?
No, yeah, it was really great having him on. It's always, especially since the defensive performance was so dominating and really the key reason why UCF won. So having Tre here, a defensive player that made one of the best defensive plays in the 2017 season, having him here for this game specifically was just absolute perfect timing.
It's remarkable. It's man, I'll never forget that play. Bryce, were you at the stadium? No, you probably weren't at that time. Where were you for that game?
No, my freshman year at UCF started in the fall of 2019, but I did watch it on television though. I did do that. And actually, I think I might remember because I've mentioned this to you before in conversation, but I believe I remember very specifically what happened because there is a video of myself that I have where I was watching that game and I absolutely blew up when the interception happened. I've watched it back a few times. I basically went pick. Oh my God, we're undefeated, something along those lines. Frost was already rumored to be going to Nebraska at that point. So I was just sort of saying, like, Frost, you can go to Nebraska. You can go wherever the heck you want because this team just went undefeated. And, you can go wherever the heck you want because this is just a big victory for UCF in general. And so that moment was definitely one of my favorites as a UCF fan. So to have him here on the program was just an absolute delight.
He's one of my favorite people covering. Great guy, down to earth. You just saw him right there. This weekend is the anniversary with his girlfriend. That's why we had to let him go. But who's a great girl herself. But he's an awesome person, man, and I was super happy he made that play, and it's awesome. And he's what he represented the program very well, for sure. And we'll always remember that play. That's an iconic play. That's arguably, Bryson, one of the most iconic plays in the history, right there with Hale Perriman, right? Like, I mean, it's the obviously the kickoff return by Mike Hughes against South Florida. I mean, those are some of the most iconic plays in the history of this program.
I would say so, yes. As far as iconic is concerned, I would also put J.J. Wharton's one-handed catch against Temple.
Yeah, agree. No, I agree with you on that. I agree with you on that. I think that's a fair one to throw out. All right, let's listen in here if we can as I work through technology, and that's always a challenge, Bryson. We're going to play a little bit of Gus Malzahn's post game. The UCF just posted it online. Let's hear what Gus had to say following this victory.
I'm not hearing anything, Eric. If we need to, we have Andrew Glukoff's Twitter thread of him following the press conference. So if we need to go do that, we can. Oh, that's why you're muted. That's why we can't hear it. You're muted.
All right, so hold on. I'm going to switch it up here a little bit. We're going to switch it up. We're going to make this work. What was your other thoughts on the game while I figure out the kinks?
Well, I would just say that, as much as this score shows that some domination, it was defensive domination. I mentioned it before, but I really have to reemphasize it. The red zone defense was really the key to this game because Memphis is 1-3 in the red zone. If those two scores happen, those two interceptions that the defense got in the end zone don't happen, then this game is a whole lot closer. Also, there was a comment that mentioned it earlier, but Memphis had a special teams miscue. That's something that's plagued UCF for a couple of games prior to this one. But Memphis made one today that could have easily been the difference in this game because it gave UCF the field position to score. I believe they actually would have gone 3-and-out had that miscue not happened. So this is so while the score may indicate otherwise, and we definitely need to give the defense the credit it's due because it absolutely played its best game of the season, like Gus Malzahn said in his presser. But we definitely cannot overlook that the offense did not necessarily produce like it should have, at least in terms of the longer drives. Mikey Keene only had 63 yards. Granted, some of those came off drops, which is understandable.
But I mean, he's a game manager, and they're trying to, avoid him. Let's hear what Gus had to say. Let's see if this works now. I think I figured this out. So here's Gus in the postgame.
First of all, real proud of our team. Hard-fought win against a good Memphis team, a team that actually beat Mississippi State. We played extremely well in defense. It's the best defensive game we played, really by a long shot. Our crowd was phenomenal, and our players fed off our crowd. It's an unbelievable home field advantage, the space game, and everything that goes with that. Really good win. You look at the defense, 6 sacks. We had 3 interceptions. I think they had a muff punt. I don't know how many 4th down conversions that we stopped, but our defense played championship defense tonight. Offense, we got off to a good start. They made some adjustments in the second quarter, running 2 through a gap. And we made a couple of adjustments in the second half. I think the big thing for me offensively is we got to get better on 3rd down. That's really been our Achilles heel. But we talked about the second half of the season. It's a new season. We're 1-0 now. The challenge to our team is very few teams actually get better the second half of the season. That's our challenge. And I think we did tonight. It's good to be 1-0 in the second half of the season and something we can build upon. Questions?
Coach, how much more is it an advantage for you having Isaiah Bowser back looking closer to his old self?
Yeah, he's an impact player. He's not 100%. And you can see he just leans on people. He runs through tackles. he has that ability. That last run he made to seal the deal, there wasn't a whole lot there, and he bounced it out. We were wanting to, have his carries. I think at 20, he carried at 26, but we'll be smart with him this week, and hopefully he'll be closer to 100% next week.
3 interceptions in the fourth quarter alone. I mean, those were probably the biggest plays of the game for you guys, I would think. What was your thought on the performance from the defensive backs tonight?
Yeah. I mean, they did a phenomenal job. Now, and I will say this, though. Our defensive front, they got after the quarterback. It all works together. They're harassing the quarterback. He made some throws, but our secondary did a super job. They didn't give up any big plays over the top. They kept everything in front. It was an impressive defensive game. Coach Williams and staff had a super game plan. That's a high-powered offense. And that quarterback, he was played in a school that was really close to my old job. He's a phenomenal player, and our defense did a great job.
Well, we mentioned offense and defense here. Coach, you said on Monday that you were looking to also turn special teams into an advantage after the struggles previously. Do you feel like you did that tonight?
Yeah, I told our special teams, we just need to play clean. I mean, we need to catch punts. We need to protect our punter. And we did that. We covered the big muff, and that gave us 14-0 lead right there. We got down there, harassed the guy. We covered kicks pretty well. And we were pretty solid, in our kicking game. The field goal was really close right there. That was a tough series right there of events right there before half. But, I think especially we did a solid job.
Coach, you contained their run game. They rushed for more than 150 yards the last 3 games.
Yeah. I really think we're a good run defense when we put our cleats in the ground and our guys can play fast. And Coach Williams' group, they mixed in the zone with the man, and our run fits were really good. Got them in those passing situations, able to pin our ears back. And, we played a lot of defensive linemen too. And, they were in that feeding frenzy mode. It was great to see.
How frustrating was the drops by receivers tonight?
Say it again.
How frustrating was it to see all the drops by receivers tonight?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of frustrating things offensively. We're still growing, and right now we're playing 2 quarterbacks, and we think that gives us the best chance of being successful right now until Dylan comes back. And so we're a work in progress, but we did some really good things. We had some explosive plays. We had the reverse. We had a couple speed sweeps. We got to get to where we can throw it down the field a little bit, and we'll get Flash back in the near future and present a really another threat besides O'Keefe, in the deep passing game.
What goes into the decision to switch Joey Gatewood in for Mikey Keenan? It seems like sometimes it was just one play here and there, but other times.
Yeah, it was more specifically on certain plays, and you'll see us continue. Joey presents a completely different deal. You saw down there, I mean, it wasn't there on the read zone. He stuck his foot in the ground. He got 8 down there to end the game right before we gave it to Bowser. He just presents a different challenge for the defense, and that's what's best for our team. Do I like playing 2 quarterbacks? I don't. But that's what's best for our team right now. And we'll continue to build on that. Each week will be a little bit different. Joey had the plays. We felt really good about him, and so we'll continue to develop that.
Coach, going back to what you just talked about, you got Ryan involved in the passing game and the rushing game tonight. How important is he for this offense?
Oh, yeah, he's our him and Johnny Richardson. Those are the 2 guys that can really turn something, into nothing and make an explosive play. And, Ryan's been that guy, and he's been very consistent. We need to try to find probably more ways to get the ball to him, even than we did tonight. But he's a phenomenal player, and, a guy that we need to get the ball to.
Coach, a lot of players had a lot of good open field tackles tonight.
Yeah.
What changed from earlier in the year to now that's really helped them step up?
I think in fairness, you got a new defensive staff, you got new defensive players. Now they've had some injuries and stuff like that. And I think it's kind of getting in a groove, and the coaches knowing their players, the players knowing the coaches, and kind of settling down at what our strengths are. I thought our staff did a wonderful job. I thought our players responded. I mean, they were flying around. You're exactly right. We tackled the space, and they got a couple guys that have the B button, they can really make people miss. And I thought the tackling was really good. And that's something that, Travis Williams, that's been his MO. In the past, his guys tackle, and I think you can see us continue to tackle well.
You mentioned tackling being one factor with the defense there. It's something else too, kind of their resolve. You had just before the interception that stopped the score there, deep, the first interception, you had what looked like a missed block in the back, and then there's a holding in the end zone, and then they come up with the turnover. Kind of speak to your defense.
Say it again now. I mean, take me back. What quarter was it?
It was later in the game. I think it was a fourth quarter. It was the first interception.
Our defense got the interception.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, I think the one time I think we shoved a receiver out of bounds. I don't know if the ball was in there or not, but they had a couple of really impact penalties right there in the fourth quarter. That they were down the 20, and you turn around, they're on their 20. So, but we got the interception, worked out.
Coach, you had a conversation with Mikey Keene after he took the sack on third down on the sideline. What was that conversation about?
Where you at right here?
Oh, yeah.
That's a confidential conversation. Okay. But, I mean, he's our quarterback, and this is his fourth game, and, we have high expectations. I think he's capable of being a very good quarterback, and he's learning and growing. And, so that was really – it was just a kind of a coach-quarterback conversation.
Coach, I take it you were frustrated with the Memphis defense being a little bit slow after you subbed and they were subbing at the end of the first half. Is that where you're frustrated?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it just seems like this year, there's been 3 or 4 games that they let people come on, they let people walk off, and then the play clock's going down. That one right before the halftime, we put a guy in there with 17 seconds. The guy stood over the ball, and then we get a 5-yard. I don't know. We got to – I don't know. This is new to me. I've never seen that before, but it's happened 4 straight, or really 4. It didn't happen last week, but it happened the 3 before in this one. So I don't know. That's a new one.
What did you like about Mikey on the first touchdown drive?
He led us down the field, and he monitored, he managed the offense and got everything right and did a good job. And then he made a really good throw to Brandon. And then that one to our young freshman, the tall one, that was a pretty good throw too. It was real close to being a touchdown.
Last question. Big Cat had his first career multi-sack game. He just walked in the room.
Yeah.
What did you like about his performance?
Yeah. I mean, he's been really close. He's been really close to a couple, and it was good to see him finish that. And I think that just kind of probably broke it open for the next 5 games. All right. Thank y'all.
All right, that was Gus Malzahn's post game, courtesy of UCF Football, who posted it on their Twitter account. Thanks to them for that. Bryson, your thoughts there of what you heard from Coach Malzahn?
Yeah, I think it was a pretty accurate representation. I think Mikey Keene did a great job with the first touchdown drive. Same as he said, and the one to show, I believe it was Brower. I think is what the tight end's name was, that he almost caught it, and that almost caught it for a touchdown. That was certainly a promising sight there. But yeah, I think the big thing to think about with Keene is that this game, I think, is what we're going to see from the UCF offense down the road. Do we want them to score more? Yes. But I do think what we're going to end up seeing is a lot of then very much leaning on Isaiah Bowser. I mean, he ran 26 times for 111 yards today. So I think that as far as the UCF offense goes, a lot of it is going to go through him. I also shared his frustration about the UCF being on the ball. I thought that, I mean, we talked about it with Trey, and it's a strategy. It's a strategy that might really, really frustrate you, but it is a strategy, so that it's a legitimate thing to do. So yeah, I think that as far as, I think he did a good job. I think he did a great job with this team, and yeah, I think the big thing I think now is now that Mikey Keene is able to have the pressure off him, now is Malzahn and GJ Kinney will be able to help develop him a little more, because now that he doesn't have the pressure anymore of having to be the hero and the driver in game day scenarios, he can now really focus more, especially in practice, on just developing his game and developing his craft. So hopefully we could see more higher stats out of him. But I think he did what he needed to do this week.
I agree. Look, it's a good win. And I want to address Jessica Sheldon's question. She asked, do you think we could go 5-1 in the second half of the season? I do. I think this team has a chance with the way this defense is playing. You heard Tre Neal talk about how these guys are starting to kind of figure out this scheme and how to play it. with Bowser back, Bowser's the key because he's the running game. And then you got O'Keefe. You heard Coach Gus mention maybe they get Jalen Robinson down the road to help with the whiteouts. You look at their schedule at Temple. That's a winnable game. Tulane only has one win this season. That's a winnable game. The tough one is going to be at SMU there, Bryson. They're clicking on all cylinders. I believe they're the biggest threat to Cincinnati. It would not surprise me if they derail them. They have an incredible offense with Mordecai at quarterback and Calcaterra at the tight end. That's going to be a tall order. But you have UConn on the schedule and South Florida, which has their issues. And look, Gus said on the radio show this week, he was on with Mike Bianchi locally in Orlando on 96.9 The Game, that Dylan Gabriel is progressing. They're hopeful that he could return by towards the end of the season. So that could make a difference if he does return. So I do think they got a shot to go 5-1. I think this team has a shot to go 8-4 overall, and I think that would be a success considering all the adversity they've had to deal with the injuries.
Oh yeah, and for it to be Gus Malzahn's first season as well, I think an 8-4 record is certainly respectable for this kind of season. And yeah, I would hope we get to see Dylan Gabriel again down the line. Maybe, put him out for a little bit against UConn to just kind of feel it out, see how he's feeling for maybe a couple drives or a quarter, then put Mikey Keene in because, let's face it, it's UConn. So, and then after that, if he's feeling healthy, then seeing him appear for the whole game in the war on I-4, especially with what's at stake for the rivalry in that game, would definitely be a great way to kind of, end the regular season on a high note, because it's definitely been a bit of a long, winding road for this team with the injuries and everything. So one thing Gus also mentioned in the press conference was Big Cat Bryant, and I really have to commend Big Cat because he really had himself a game. He did a big all-around game. 6 total tackles, 3 solo tackles, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for losses. He broke up a pass. And he hurried the quarterback. He was all over the field today. And of course, not to mention the other large characters. Tatum Bethune once again leads the team in tackles with 9, 6 solo tackles. He had a sack and a tackle for a loss. Devontae Brown had himself a really good game. I believe it was Mike Doty that mentioned earlier that Devontae Brown deserves a starting DB spot. And while I honestly that depends on more of his larger body of work. This game certainly was a good case for him. 7 total tackles, 4 solo, half a sack, half tackle for yardage, and the interception. And of course, Bryson Armstrong with 7 tackles, and he had a tackle for a loss as well. So there were plenty of very well done individual defensive performances out of the defense, but I think Big Cat Bryant had the one that was the most all around.
I agree. And look, man, that's very positives, and I think there's a lot of optimism there. They played well. I just liked how the defense played, and I think the running game with Bowser. And I understand it's not the most exciting football. People are like, "Where's George O'Leary?" I personally didn't mind the O'Leary era. I care about winning games. That O'Leary ball worked out. Got to a Fiesta Bowl. That's how they have to win right now. They just have to win that way, and that's all that matters.
One thing that I definitely want to make sure that doesn't go unmentioned though is Ryan O'Keefe, because Ryan O'Keefe, in my opinion, has really been the fill-in for, even though he was probably pretty much a starter coming into the season anyway. He's really this game specifically. He really filled that role that Jalen Robinson kind of left unfilled because of his injury as the resident speedster on this team. He was turning corners and getting there with the best of them, and did it twice, giving Joey Gatewood a touchdown pass technically. So this was also a really great game for Ryan O'Keefe as well. And even though Bowser is going to dominate this offense, I would not be surprised if we're going to be seeing a lot of Ryan O'Keefe jet sweep, short passes.
Why not? He's a playmaker, and I thought that's what the plan was. They gave the ball touches to their 2 best playmakers right now on the offense. That's what you have to do. That's the goal. It may not be pretty, but it was effective, and they wore down Memphis as the game went on.
What do you think about, by the way, because he talked about addressing how the 2 quarterback system has been going, because Gatewood, certainly whenever Gatewood comes in, it doesn't always produce the best plays, and it disrupts any momentum that Mikey Keene might have been building up. What do you think about what Gus said about that?
I mean, I think they got to sort that out. I think he's trying to see. I mean, look, this is an evaluation. Is Mikey King what he can handle, what he cannot handle? Gatewood, what he can. They obviously believe in Gatewood. Remember, they recruited him at Auburn. I think he's their better runner. The question is, can he throw the football? Otherwise, it becomes a little predictable. So, I know people don't like 2 quarterback systems. It has worked. It can work, but a lot. It depends on how the game's going. I think you have to evolve, and I think they'll try to figure it out. I wonder if they get closer to the goal line, do they use Gatewood more? Maybe use his legs more? Do we see both of them in the game at some point? We'll see. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. They got to sort that out. But I think they want to give both a look clearly, and why not? That's what they want to know, what they have going into next season and beyond. And I think that's part of why they're going to play both, to be honest. And I think they feel that both can offer some different things. It just so happened that, it hasn't looked as smooth so far with Gatewood. But it did in that one touchdown drive where he ran the handoff in that little screen pass. So that might be what we see. All right. Go ahead.
I do want to ask you, though, about how Peter Parrish played, because one downside that I think to this game this game is that we didn't get a chance to play against Seth Hennigan, who
clearly a big difference maker.
Nationally had the most passing yards,
right?
One of the highest passing yards numbers in the league, and also is very close to the numbers that Tanner Mordecai has been putting up for SMU, right. which I was hoping that with this game we could kind of get a feel of what going up against SMU was like. Instead, we just had another dual threat quarterback, almost like a young quarterback. It was almost like kind of playing against Joey Gatewood in a way.
Here's the thing: UCF will say, "You know what? We have no sympathy. We lost our quarterback, so you got to deal with it." So,
but that said, Peter Parrish, like he being pushed into service like he has. He had a pretty solid game. He had 215 passing yards, and he's the team.
He did okay, but he's obviously not at the level of Hennigan. I think that changed their game plan completely. He's not the passer that Hennigan is. That's what they feed off with, and then that opens the running game. And, obviously what happened was UCF said, we're going to take away your running game. We're going to dare this kid to beat us with the pass, and he couldn't. That's kind of my thoughts on that. We'll see when they get him back. They need their quarterback back. Otherwise, I think they're going to struggle a little bit because they're not going to win with their defense. Their defense is very average. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. Let's kind of wrap this up and kind of turn the page here because this was a busy night of UCF athletics here, Bryson. Football was playing, obviously a win, but meantime, as Eric Edwards brings up, volleyball and men's soccer play both won. Hockey won, which is cool. But you were following the volleyball and the men's soccer there. Just tell the audience what we missed while we were watching, as this segment goes, while we were watching football. If you'd tell us, maybe you froze. You froze. He's frozen. There's too much to cover. There you are.
All right, am I back?
There you go. Yeah.
Okay, good. So for men's soccer, they got on the board really early. Luca Dorado scored really early on.
Oh, Bryson, you're losing me here at the end. You're losing us. Come on, Bryson.
This is not good. Let me try and all right. I'm gonna see. I tried to close some tabs to see if maybe that might help.
People need to know what happened while they were watching football here.
Yes. Okay. So there we go. So all right. Hopefully this works. I closed some tabs down. So let's see if I'll stay here. Okay. All right. So Luca Dorado scored early for men's soccer. Scored early. And then Gino Vivi got 2 insurance goals to ensure the 3-0 win over Temple. And then as far as volleyball was concerned, SMU kept it close in the first two sets. UCF definitely didn't by no stretch handily win the first 2 sets. They definitely really had to work for them. However, however, the third set, I think the SMU team was definitely a little more worn down by that point, and so UCF was able to get that third set well in hand and continue their winning streak that has been built up since they've lost to Houston a few weeks back. So UCF volleyball is definitely continuing its mostly domination of the American Athletic Conference, and men's soccer. I thus not forget, Tyler Levine for the redshirt freshman goalkeeper for men's soccer had a career high 7 saves tonight against Temple. So that was a well done performance from him. You know, if being a redshirt freshman to be put into service like he has certainly been not easy. There was some growing pains earlier in the season that had me a little concerned, but over the past few games, he has absolutely done a lot of things right, and I think he's really cemented his hold on the goalkeeping position now, especially with the Tulsa game. If not after the Tulsa game, then for sure for this game with another career high. So great job. So definitely a great night all around for UCF athletics, and I'm excited to see what they'll do tomorrow as well, because it's another busy day tomorrow.
All right, so I posted the standings. Here's the men's soccer standings. UCF now 6-1 in conference, tied with Tulsa for first place, 2 games up on SMU. UCF currently has the tiebreaker because remember they beat Tulsa at home earlier this year. They will finish the regular season at Tulsa. That is looming, Bryson. November 5th. That could decide the entire regular season championship and where the conference tournament will be held. SMU may have something to say about that because SMU still got to play UCF, and I believe they still may have to play Tulsa. But UCF 8-4 on the season of men's soccer, really playing good, took care of business early. You mentioned volleyball. UCF volleyball 8-1 in conference, 15-6 overall, a game up on Houston after the sweep against SMU. Volleyball will be at Memphis to conclude their 4-game road trip on Sunday. So you got men's soccer and volleyball both going for a four-peat in the regular season conference championship. And remember, in volleyball, there's no conference tournament this year. So whoever wins the regular season will get the automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. UCF currently a game up at Houston, and UCF will finish the regular season. The final weekend, one of their road trips will be at Houston. So that could be significant there as well. So those are the 2 teams right there I mentioned. And then Sunday is women's soccer will host Temple, their regular season home finale. They're coming off a good win last night at East Carolina, Bryson, right?
Yes, indeed they are. Caroline Delisle once again is proving to be the centerpiece of this team, because they got a lot of shots off, and so Caroline. Honestly, I would say that if there's going to be any way for this team to succeed to get to the conference tournament and do some damage, it's going to be through Caroline Delisle's goalkeeping.
You see the standings right there. Currently, UCF is in 6th place. That is important because the top 6 teams in the conference will make the conference tournament. The top 2 seeds get a bye. If you're a 3 seed or a 4 seed, you get to host the first round. UCF RPI as of tonight was 38. That's very good. They have good wins over Ole Miss and Penn State. They're right on the bubble for the NCAA tournament. They have Temple, and then they finish up at Cincinnati. They must win those 2 matches, in my opinion. If they win those 2 matches, they will be in the conference tournament. And who knows, could finish and host a first-round game. And I think kind of be one step closer to locking up in that large bid for the NCAA tournament. If you slip up in one of these 2 matches, things get a little dicey there. So these are critical matches for UCF women's soccer as UCF tries to get back to the tournament. Women's hasn't been to the tournament since 2017, and it would be pretty cool, Bryson, if women's soccer, men's soccer, and volleyball can all make the NCAA tournament in the same year. I'm not sure if that's ever happened before. There you go. There's your assignment for the weekend.
Oh man, let's just say that it'll be busy here at the Bannerhead if that happens. That's for sure. One thing I wouldn't be remiss to forget. So I checked the stats because, I said that, this team's success is going to go through Caroline Delisle. And I took a look at her stats this season, and she's had 70 saves so far this season. And I checked the individual season records, and in order to get to the top 10, she has to get 82 saves in order to be in the top 10 individual season saves in program history. The last time a top 10 season has happened was back in 2009 when Alini Reyes got 82 saves. So Caroline Delisle this season could very well be on her way to a historical season for her. And if she ends up getting the average amount of saves she usually gets per game, which I did a little bit of guesstimating, and I guess it was around 6 from what I got. I had to probably calculate that to be more specific, but it was around 6-ish. So if she gets around the average amount of save that she gets in a game, she's going to pass that. And I think that it just kind of shows you, how many shots have been sent her way this season, and how clutch she has been to get all of those saves.
So fun, of course, you can check that out. Bryson writes his weekly nightcap article on blackandgoldbanneret.com. Will keep you updated on all the other UCF sports while it's going on with football season going on. Of course, football with the big win tonight. Reminder, they'll play Temple noon Eastern in Philadelphia on ESPN Plus next Saturday. There'll be a night shift after that game. But we're going to enjoy this one for the night. Thanks again to everybody who tuned in here tonight, asked the questions. And thanks to Tre Neal. It was cool to have Tre to kind of analyze the game for us as UCF victorious 24-7. Bryce, it's always fun to do these when they win a game there. And I think everybody feels pretty good about overall. And then we'll move on to focus on Temple and hopefully build that momentum. But this was fun. This was a fun show.
It was, and I think that it would a good way to kind of wrap this show up, because we didn't really get a chance to look on social media at all tonight. And so there is this one tweet that I saved from Alex Koslow that I think really fits the mood that this game is kind of set. And it's probably the best win of the year for UCF. Offense struggled at times, but great to see the defense stepped up. And it's honestly kind of funny, because we thought that it would be the complete opposite earlier in the season, with the defense being the one to struggle and the offense having to step up. But after the injuries and definitely some great job coaching out of Travis Williams, it's completely flipped. And more power to the defense, because this is the best I've seen them play in a while.
Let's hope that keeps up going. Hope that keeps going. Keep it on blackandgoldbanneret.com. We'll keep you updated on all the latest with UCF athletics as we cover them all. And, of course, make sure you follow us on Twitter, ladies and gentlemen, UCF_Banneret. Make sure you like us on Facebook. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube page. Give us a like. Give us a review on our podcast. And certainly we would appreciate that support on that. There's a lot of guys working behind the scenes on this to make it happen. So that would be very much appreciative. And we'll have some more content on our YouTube page this week coming up, including our exclusive interview with cross-country legend. Who's that, Bryson?
Anne Marie Blaney is going to join us here on the Black and Gold Banneret YouTube channel, with me and Eric getting the chance to talk to her together. And it was a wonderful interview. I can't wait for you guys to see it. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's also going to be on this week's episode of the Black and Gold Banneret podcast, right?
To be determined. You never know. News could happen. But it'll be on. We will have it on. It'll be on, and we'll keep it. That's why you need to follow us to just see what you never know what pops up on that. So, all right, that's a wrap. Again, thanks to Tre Neal. Thank you, Bryson. For Bryson Turner, I'm Eric Lopez. We hope you've enjoyed this edition of Night Shift. The Knights victorious over the Memphis Tigers, 24-7 is the final. UCF wins. Good night and charge on.